Accepted into Peking First Medical University. You're the first female student from our night school to get into college. You're the pride of our school. My teacher patted me gently on the shoulder, his voice warm and kind. You must study hard, Rachel. Someday, you'll use your medical knowledge to help and heal many people. Teacher, I won't let you down, I said sincerely. I won't fail the country that has nurtured me, either. I nodded firmly, overwhelmed with gratitude rising in my chest. But teacher, can I ask you not to tell anyone about my college admission for now? Why? He asked, slightly confused. I'm afraid someone might try to take my spot, I lied, offering a quick excuse. My teacher understood immediately and agreed to keep it quiet. Clutching my admission letter tightly against my chest, I walked out of school, feeling as if I were holding my rebirth in my arms. The autumn wind brushed against my cheeks, but it couldn't blow away the days clouding my mind. Had I really, truly come back to life? Thoughts of my past life came flooding back, waves of grievances and pain crashing through me. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I ran to the small grove behind the school and broke down, crying uncontrollably. In my previous life, I gave up the opportunity to go to college for Ethan Grant. I gave up my dreams, my goals, and myself. I believed that my sacrifices would be met with his sincerity. I thought that even if we didn't share a passionate romance, we would at least have mutual respect and companionship. But everything shattered when the truth came to light. My past life, my love, my loyalty, had all been a joke. That day, while organizing Ethan Grant's belongings after his death, I accidentally discovered a remittance list and a photo. Every month, he had been transferring a fixed amount of money to the same name, Amanda Lynn. In the photo, Ethan was holding a little boy, and standing beside him was Amanda. The three of them were smiling like a picture-perfect family. In that moment, my entire world crumbled. So all along, his heart had always belonged to Amanda Lynn. He had been giving half his salary every month to support her son, while telling me to cut back on spending and be frugal. In his will, he even left half of his estate to Amanda and her son. And me, his wife who stood by him for 50 years, was left with just one sentence: don't make things difficult for Amanda and her son. Still reeling from the shock, I hadn't even had time to grieve when Amanda barged into my home with her son and daughter-in-law. Rachel Chen, be smart and move out. This house belongs to us now, Amanda snapped, her sharp voice echoing in my ears even now. Her son and daughter-in-law looked down at me with arrogance and disdain. Mom, why are you wasting time talking to her? Just toss her stuff out already, her son said coldly. You, all of you. I trembled with rage, my chest seizing in pain. My vision went black, and I collapsed, dead on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day I received my college admission letter. I was overwhelmed, thrilled beyond belief. If heaven had given me this second chance, I swore to myself I wouldn't repeat my past mistakes. This time, I would live for me. I would walk a path that didn't include Ethan Grant. The first thing I did when I got home was store the admission letter safely. In my previous life, I was overjoyed when I received it and couldn't wait to share the news with Ethan. But he hadn't shown even the slightest bit of happiness. In fact, he had looked a little sad. Rachel, don't go to Beijing. Your family needs you. I need you. Back then, I thought he couldn't bear to part with me. I was touched. Like a fool, I gave up my chance to attend college. But now, having lived through everything again, I finally understood. He didn't need me. He just needed someone to manage the household, take care of his aging parents, and silently bear all the burdens. Looking at the calendar on the table, I saw I had 1 month left. Just 1 more month. Then I could leave this place and begin a brand new life. As I picked up the calendar, I accidentally discovered a piece of paper underneath. I unfolded it and examined it closely, and froze. It was a marriage application Ethan Grant had submitted to the military. Hadn't it already been turned in 6 months ago? Why was it still here? Then I remembered what had happened that day, 6 months earlier. It was the day Amanda Lynn brought her son to move in with Ethan Grant. The moment he heard they were arriving, he rushed to the station to pick them up. He had no interest or intention to submit our marriage application to the military anymore. That day, I was home like a fool, happily cooking a full table of delicious dishes, excited to celebrate with him. But from morning until night, I waited, and all he said was that he had to work the night shift. Now that I've lived this life again, I finally see the truth. He lied. That night, he was clearly busy settling in Amanda Lynn and her son. Staring at the marriage application in my hand, I felt a sharp sting of irony. There was no point in its existence anymore. I picked up a match and lit the pathetic document on fire. The bright red flames danced wildly, as if mocking the foolishness of my past life. Just then, the door creaked open. "Rachel, did you make the chive and pork dumplings like I asked?" "Kiki's hungry?" came Ethan Grant's voice as he stepped inside, Amanda Lynn and her son trailing right behind him. Ethan immediately covered Kiki's nose and frowned, giving me a look full of disapproval. "Rachel, what are you burning? Don't you care that the smoke might bother Kiki?" I looked up at the three of them, standing close together like a perfect little family. My voice was cold. Nothing important, just some worthless junk. Ethan paused for a moment, clearly surprised by how indifferent I sounded, but he quickly composed himself and asked with a hint of urgency, "Are the dumplings ready? Kiki was really active at preschool today and needs to eat more." As he spoke, he walked over to the kitchen and lifted the pot lid, only to find it completely empty. He turned around, clearly more annoyed now. "Rachel, why didn't you cook the dumplings? Don't you know how hungry Kiki is?" No sooner had he said that than Kiki started whining loudly. I'm hungry, Daddy. I want dumplings." "She called you Daddy?" I let out a small snort, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Ethan and Amanda's faces immediately changed. Panic flashed in their eyes. Amanda quickly put on a pitiful expression and began explaining in a soft, careful voice. "Rachel, please don't misunderstand. She's just a child. She blurts things out. I've corrected her so many times already, but Ethan said there's no need to stop her. He said he already sees Kiki as his own child." Ethan, as if worried I'd lash out at Amanda, quickly chimed in to back her up. "Rachel, can you not be so sensitive? It's just a form of address. Besides, I've already decided to adopt Kiki as my goddaughter. So what's wrong with her calling me Dad?" I gave a cold, inward laugh and replied with indifference, "Let her call you whatever you want. It has nothing to do with me." Ethan's face turned stiff and awkward. He hurried to change the subject. "Rachel, why didn't you cook the dumplings after work? I specifically reminded you last night. In the past, I loved him. I gave in to him on everything, always accommodating him, but not anymore. My heart was dead. All I felt for him now was coldness. I was tired today," I said flatly. "I didn't feel like cooking. If you want to eat something, make it yourself. Or are you telling me you'll starve if I don't cook?" They stared at me in shock, like they couldn't believe those words came out of my mouth. The old me, even if I was unhappy, would never show it. I would always endure in silence, but not anymore. I'm done sacrificing myself. I turned and walked toward my room, ignoring them completely. Behind me, Ethan called out, "Rachel Chen." Amanda's voice followed, soft and delicate, like a poisoned needle dipped in honey. "Rachel, I know you don't like me. I won't come over anymore." Her eyes turned red as she spoke, putting on a fragile, heartbroken expression. She picked Kiki up and turned to leave, walking with deliberately shaky steps, like she was about to stumble any second. I watched her retreating back and let out a cold laugh. In my past life, I was completely fooled by that helpless, innocent act of hers. Ethan walked them out, then returned. Ethan looked at me, clearly annoyed. "Rachel, what's going on with you today? How could you be so rude and cold to our guest?" I lay on the bed without moving a muscle. I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids. He let out a sigh and walked over to the bed, softening his tone a little. "Rachel, there's nothing going on between me and Amanda. It's completely innocent. Can you stop being upset, stop misunderstanding, and stop thinking of things in such a twisted way?" When I didn't even glance at him, he started to grow anxious and continued explaining. "I admit I used to have feelings for Amanda, but when she chose to marry James Jong, in my heart, she became nothing more than my sister-in-law. What we have now is just camaraderie, nothing more." After a brief pause, he added, "I've told you this more than once. If James hadn't died saving me in battle, Amanda wouldn't have lost her husband, and Kiki wouldn't have lost her father. I owe them. A widow and her child. It's pitiful. I have a responsibility to protect and take care of them. As the wife of a soldier, you should understand and support me." Amanda's husband, James Jiang and Ethan had enlisted together. Both fell for Amanda, who danced in the Army's performing arts troupe. But Amanda chose James, who had a higher military rank. On their wedding day, Ethan finally introduced me, his fiancée from the countryside, the one arranged through a childhood betrothal. No one expected James to die during a mission, sacrificing himself to protect Ethan. Ethan had carried guilt in his heart ever since. But what did that have to do with me? If he owed them, he should repay them himself. Why drag me into it? In my past life, he took my ration tickets, the new quilt I had just finished making, even the untouched fabric I hadn't yet cut, and gave it all to Amanda without asking. I cried and told him those things were mine. I needed them too. But he told me I needed to be generous, to be compassionate. Otherwise, he said, I wasn't a good military wife. And now he had the nerve to say I'm the one with a twisted mind? Ridiculous. Anyone in the neighborhood could see how close Ethan and Amanda were. Their relationship was anything but pure. Every time work ended, Ethan didn't come pick up me, his fiancée. He went to Amanda's workplace to escort her and her son home. They laughed and talked the whole way, like a real family. People who didn't know any better would have thought they were a family of three. Ethan constantly invited Amanda and Kiki to eat at our house. I cooked. I cleaned. They walked in and sat at the table. I was basically an unpaid maid. Even the neighbors warned me, directly and indirectly, to be careful with Amanda. They said if I wasn't careful, I'd end up divorced. But forget it. There was no point telling him all this now. I didn't want this man anymore. He wasn't worth my time or energy. I finally looked up at him and said calmly, I'm not angry. I'm not misunderstanding anything. I'm just really tired. I don't feel like moving. Ethan visibly relaxed when he heard I wasn't mad. Relief washed over his face like a man who had just dodged disaster. That's good, Rachel. If you're tired, just rest. I'll make dinner tonight. He said it eagerly and then turned toward the kitchen. I lay there on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind drifting back to my plans for Beijing. The smell of dinner slowly wafted into the room, pulling me out of my thoughts. Rachel? Dinner's ready, Ethan called from outside the door. I got up and walked to the dining table. The meal was simple, 2 dishes and a soup, but it all felt strangely foreign to me. In my last life, we used to sit like this too. Back then, my eyes were full of love for him. Now all that remained was cold detachment. Rachel, I was thinking, Ethan said cautiously, I'd like to give our TV to Kiki. We barely watch it anyway. I nearly laughed out loud. In my past life, he didn't ask. He just carried the TV out without a word. The TV I had scrimped and saved for, the one I bought with so much effort, was casually given away. I had argued with him so bitterly over it. Amanda, acting all sweet and selfless, pretended to insist on giving it back. But Ethan said it would hurt his pride. Ethan had made some excuse about being sent on a mission and left. He was gone for a whole month. When I went to the base to see him, he said he was too busy. But I saw with my own eyes that he had time to go shopping in town with Amanda Lynn and her son, buying daily necessities together. I cared about Ethan Grant, so I swallowed my pride. I personally delivered the TV to Amanda's home. Only then did Ethan come back. He praised me, said I was a model military wife, kind, generous, and understanding. Looking back on it now, I let out a bitter, mocking laugh. I wanted to slap some sense into my past self. Rachel, what are you laughing at? Ethan asked, confused. Nothing, I said, wiping the smile from my face. If you want to give away the TV, that's fine, but Amanda needs to give me 100 yuan for it. His expression changed immediately. I knew exactly what he was about to say, that I was being petty, selfish, and heartless. Back then, the TV had cost 400 yuan. He paid 300, and I covered the remaining 100. 100 that I'd scraped together by borrowing from my coworkers. I hadn't even finished paying them back. I quickly added, originally, I planned to use my ration tickets to cover the rest, but you already gave mine to Amanda. So now I have no money, and no tickets. Your salary's almost used up too, right? How am I supposed to eat or drink before next month's paycheck? Ethan was speechless. It took him a long moment before he finally mumbled, I'll get you the 100 yuan as soon as I can. I knew full well that he'd end up paying for it himself. He couldn't bear to make Amanda spend a cent. But I didn't care how he got the money. I just needed it in hand. Between travel expenses to Beijing, Application fees and living costs, 100 yuan wasn't even close to enough. I had to find a way to earn more within this 1 month. Early the next morning, Ethan hummed a tune while carrying the TV out of the house. As soon as he left, I began packing. Old books and exam papers, a half-finished pair of soles I'd been stitching, the scarf and hat I had just knitted for Ethan. Everything went into bundles, and I sold them all to the recycling collector. I made 20 yuan. Not much, but it was the first step toward my new life. That evening, Ethan handed me the 100 yuan. I took it and counted it twice, carefully, before slipping it into my pocket with satisfaction. "Rachel, doesn't the house feel like something's missing?" he asked, glancing around, puzzled. "No," I replied calmly, as if nothing had happened. "What about our photo?" he asked, pointing at the empty picture frame on the wall. "Oh, I accidentally broke the frame. The photo got dirty too. I'll reframe it later," I answered casually. In truth, I had cut my side out of the photo. We weren't husband and wife. That photo just disgusted me now. We were halfway through dinner when Amanda suddenly burst in, flustered. "Ethan, there's a mouse in my house. I'm scared." Kiki got frightened and started crying. "Can you come help me?" She clutched Ethan's arm. He looked at me, torn. I smiled and said, "Go ahead. They're just a widow and her child. They need your help." He immediately got up and followed Amanda out. I watched their backs as they walked away, feeling absolutely nothing. In fact, I found it almost funny. When you stop caring about someone, peace comes surprisingly easily. In the days that followed, Ethan started giving Amanda the welfare supplies distributed by the army. I didn't stop him. He bought her a new dress. I didn't get angry. He stood up for her, telling off the people who bullied her, saying he was her protector. I didn't care. He even took Amanda and her son to the photo studio to take that family portrait, the one I only found out about right before I died. I didn't burst in to interrupt them. I just smiled and quietly watched it all unfold. But my calmness made Ethan uneasy. "Rachel, why don't you get upset anymore?" he asked. "Why should I be upset?" I answered with a question of my own. "They're a widow and her child. It's your duty to help them. I'm a good military wife, remember?" Ethan was at a loss for words. He looked like he wanted to say something, but swallowed it back. After a long pause, he spoke again, this time in a coaxing tone. "Rachel, how about we go to the co-op together tomorrow? We're running low on a lot of household items." I glanced at the note I'd marked on the calendar. 15 days left. "I can't tomorrow," I told him. "I have to go back to my hometown. Your parents have been talking about us non-stop. You're not allowed to leave the base without permission, so I requested leave to go visit them for a few days." "Rachel, you're amazing," he said, eyes filled with emotion that only made me feel more bitter inside. The truth was, I didn't want to go. But I had to. If the same accident happened again, and I didn't intervene in time, I might lose my chance to go to Beijing once more. In my past life, I hadn't been able to attend university. Not just because Ethan disapproved, but also because of what happened at home. His father suddenly fell ill. His mother, trusting some old folk remedy passed down in the village, hiked up the mountain in the pouring rain to pick herbs, and ended up breaking her leg. Back then, I considered myself part of the Grant family. The moment I heard what had happened, I panicked like a cat on a hot tin roof. Ethan didn't even have to say a word. I'd already packed up my things to go home and take care of his parents. It's said that it takes 100 days to fully recover from a bone injury. By the time I had nursed his mother back to health, the semester at Peking First Medical University had already begun. There was no way they would accept a student arriving 2 months late. Our childhood engagement had been arranged by our grandfathers when they were drunk. The truth was, Ethan's parents never really approved of me. They thought a man as outstanding as Ethan deserved a wife who could support his future. Not some girl from the countryside with no status or background. Still, they had never treated me poorly. When my parents passed away, the Grants helped out a lot. For that, I felt I owed them. I couldn't just stand by while something happened to Ethan's mother. And besides, at that point, Ethan and I hadn't officially broken off our relationship. Everyone in the village assumed I was already his wife. If I hadn't gone to help, people would have gossiped about me behind my back. I arrived just in time. As soon as Ethan's father started feeling ill, I called the village chief and had him rushed to the hospital. Ethan's mother went with us. 3 days later, I brought them both home, safe and sound. Just to be sure nothing else went wrong, I stayed an extra week. That week, I cooked, cleaned, did laundry, chopped firewood, kept the stove going, and even bought them new household items. When I left, Ethan's parents repeatedly praised me as a good daughter-in-law. I smiled but said nothing. In my heart I was thinking, being your daughter-in-law is exhausting. I won't be doing that in this lifetime. 4 more days. Just 4 more days, and I would be free to start my new life. The long bus ride back took another day. When I opened the front door, the sight that greeted me stopped me in my tracks. Ethan was holding Amanda Lynn tightly by the waist. Her arms were wrapped around his neck. The two of them looked like lovers caught in the heat of passion. Even though I had long given up on Ethan after being reborn, seeing this scene still stirred a rush of anger inside me. Especially that red dress Amanda was wearing. It was blindingly familiar. I'd once stood in front of that very dress in a store window, staring at it for a long time. Ethan had told me he'd buy it for me as a birthday gift, and now it was on another woman. Gifts? Men. I didn't care about any of it anymore. My sudden appearance had clearly interrupted their little moment. Ethan's expression flickered with panic as he quickly pushed Amanda away. She stumbled and nearly fell, but what caught my eye was the look Ethan gave me, part guilty, part smug, almost like a challenge. "Rachel, you're back," Ethan said, his voice shaking, eyes darting away from mine. "It's not what it looks like." He was desperate to explain, but had no idea where to start. Amanda, as usual, spoke with her soft, fragile tone. "Rachel, don't get the wrong idea. I accidentally stepped on a toy and almost tripped. Ethan just caught me, that's all." As Amanda spoke, she lowered her head and gently adjusted the hem of her dress, putting on the image of a helpless, delicate woman. I stood there, expressionless, watching their pathetic little performance, feeling nothing but amusement. "Okay, got it. No misunderstanding," I said blandly, my voice so calm it was impossible to tell what I was thinking. My reaction clearly caught Ethan off guard. He frowned deeply, eyes fixed on me with what looked like a flicker of sadness. He reached for my arm as if he wanted to say something, but stopped himself at the last moment. Just then, a bright child's voice broke the tension. "Mom, Dad, look at the paper boat I made." Kiki came running over to Amanda, beaming, holding up a neatly folded paper boat with pride. My gaze fell on the boat, and my pupils instantly contracted. That paper, it looked just like my university acceptance letter. No, it couldn't be. My heartbeat surged, and a wave of anger and panic swept through me. I snatched the boat from Kiki's hands. She immediately burst into tears with a loud wail, her face covered in snot and tears. Ethan rushed to pick her up and gently patted her back. "Don't cry, Kiki, don't cry." Amanda fussed over her as well, dabbing her face while glaring at me with thinly veiled rage. "Rachel Chen, no matter how much you hate me, you can't take it out on Kiki. She's just a child. What has she done wrong?" But I wasn't listening. My attention was focused entirely on that piece of paper. Their voices buzzed like flies in the background. I unfolded the boat, breathing heavily. Thank God, it wasn't my acceptance letter. Still, my nerves were on edge. I turned and rushed to my room, dropped to the floor, and reached under the bed, rummaging frantically until I found it, my hidden university admission letter. Seeing it untouched, intact, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. Without hesitation, I stuffed it into my shoulder bag. Until I reported to school in Beijing, I had to keep that letter safe no matter what. "Rachel, go apologize to Kiki." Ethan's low voice came from behind the door, laced with criticism. I turned and saw the 3 of them standing at the doorway like a perfect little family. Kiki's eyes were swollen with tears, her cheeks flushed, hiccuping as if waiting for my apology. But I felt no remorse. Even if she hadn't used my acceptance letter, she had torn up one of my workbooks without permission. Was I not allowed to be angry about that? Before I could even speak, Kiki shouted at me, "Bad auntie, mean auntie, I hate you and Daddy, make her leave our house." She cried and clung tightly to Ethan's neck. Amanda quickly covered Kiki's mouth. "She's just talking nonsense. Rachel, please don't take it personally." Her voice was all sweetness, as if the venom in her glare moments ago had been a figment of my imagination. That was when I finally noticed something. My room was now filled with Amanda and Kiki's belongings. A bright red bedsheet with peony flowers, an expensive face cream I could never bring myself to buy sitting on the vanity, and toys scattered all over the floor. I remembered seeing Amanda's floral dress, still unfolded, draped across the couch. Her son's tiny sailor outfit on the armrest. Where were my things? I looked around. The cozy space I had carefully decorated was now completely foreign to me. I, the supposed fiancé of Ethan Grant, felt like nothing more than an uninvited guest. A bitter sense of absurdity swelled in my chest. Ethan looked panicked, eyes darting away as he rushed to explain. Rachel, it's not what it looks like. Amanda's been followed by some creep lately. She hasn't been sleeping well. Since you weren't home these past few days, I figured it would be best for her and Kiki to stay here for a while. The guy's already been caught, so they'll be moving out tomorrow. Then he added, as if it were nothing. Just spend the night with me, okay? We're going to be together sooner or later anyway. Ethan and I hadn't even had a proper wedding yet. We weren't living in the same room. Amanda heard his words, and a flash of resentment flickered in her eyes as she looked at me. But almost instantly, Amanda switched to a smiling face again. Rachel, we're only staying one more night. We'll give you back your room tomorrow. I'll make sure everything is put back exactly how it was before we go. I knew she had no intention of leaving. In fact, I even suspected the so-called stalker had been hired by her, or maybe even by Ethan himself. And then, right in the middle of her speech, she suddenly started crying. If James hadn't died, my son and I would never have needed to trouble Ethan like this. Don't worry, Rachel. No matter how hard things get, we won't bother him anymore. There it was again, that pitiful routine, guaranteed to tug at Ethan's heartstrings. Amanda, don't say that, Ethan replied, clearly distressed. James was my big brother, you're my sister-in-law, and he died saving my life. It's my responsibility, my duty, to take care of you and your son. He looked at me as if expecting my approval. Rachel understands, she gets me. No, I didn't, and I didn't want to. I cut in coldly. Where are my things? Ethan was clearly caught off guard. I stared him down until he led me into his room. Take a look. Nothing's missing, right? I scanned the room quickly and gave a small nod. Everything's here. Really? Then why does it feel like some of my things are gone? He asked, frowning with genuine confusion. Like your old shoe soles, I was just about to get you a new pair. So he could tell my stuff was missing. They were worn out, so I threw them away, I said flatly. If you want me to have new ones, buy them yourself. Ethan's brows furrowed deeper. His tone turned slightly aggrieved. You don't smile as much anymore, do you? I'm just a little tired, I said calmly. He sighed and changed the subject. How are my parents doing? They're fine, just miss you, I replied in the same flat tone. I miss them too, he said with a smile. Once things calm down at the base, let's go visit them together. Then his face turned slightly shy. You know, their biggest wish is to have a grandchild, so maybe we should help fulfill that wish soon. A grandchild, huh? In my past life, I'd suffered a miscarriage and lost my ability to have children. If he wanted a grandchild this time, he could ask Amanda Lynn. Rachel, I have something for you. He tugged at my hand, leading me to sit at the edge of the bed. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out 2 movie tickets. You've always wanted to go to the movies, right? The day after tomorrow's your birthday. Let's go together. His voice was soft, his eyes holding a hint of affection and perhaps a need for forgiveness. Once upon a time, I dreamed of going to the movies with him like a normal couple, buying 2 sodas, holding hands, laughing together. But Ethan always said he was too busy, that there wasn't enough time or money. In the end, we never did see a single movie together, not even once before I died. And now, he suddenly had time, had the thought, and even the money to buy tickets and invite me out? How ironic. 3 days from now, I'd be gone from this place forever. All right, I said, let's go. Just once. For that version of me who had loved him with everything I had, to let her live out the dream she never got. The next day after Ethan left for the base, Amanda and her son sluggishly packed their things. I'm not going. I don't want to go. Kiki wailed, clinging to Amanda's leg. This is Daddy's home. That means it's our home. I don't want to leave. Be good, Kiki, Amanda cooed, stroking his head. Don't cry. Mommy will bring you back soon. Next time, no one will be able to kick us out. Unfortunately for her, I was standing right at the doorway when she said that. She turned around and spotted me. A flicker of panic crossed her face, but she quickly recovered her composure and dropped the act. Now she didn't even bother pretending. She looked straight at me, eyes full of challenge. Rachel Chen, don't be so smug. Ethan's only staying with you because he promised the elders. The one he truly loves is me. I smiled. Are you sure? Amanda faltered, clearly thrown off. Ethan told me he's planning our wedding for the end of the year, I added with a straight face. A big one, with everyone invited. I lied. My tone was calm, but there was a hint of quiet satisfaction beneath it. Amanda Lynn's expression shifted slightly, but I wasn't finished. Ethan even bought us 2 movie tickets. I continued. He's taking me to see Romance on Lushan Mountain the day after tomorrow. Romance on Lushan Mountain, it was one of the most iconic love films of the 80s, and tickets were almost impossible to get. Everyone wanted to see it. I knew Amanda must have desperately wanted to go. Sure enough, I saw jealousy flash in her eyes, though she tried to cover it by scoffing. What's so great about a movie? Waste of money if you ask me. I just shrugged with a smile. Let's go. Amanda tugged Kiki close and began hastily packing up their things. After much stalling, the 2 of them finally cleared out. Not long after, I went out too, to buy my train ticket. I chose the earliest departure available and stocked up on food. After all, the trip to Beijing would take 3 nights and 4 days by train. Soon the day Ethan had promised to take me to the movies arrived. Before work even let out, he rushed home from the base, riding his bike with a cardboard box tied to the back seat. Rachel, I'm back, he shouted from down the road. I stood at the doorway watching him approach, feeling a swirl of emotions. What's that? I asked, pointing to the box. A gift for you, he said, stopping the bike and pulling out a cassette tape from inside. It's Teresa Teng. I know you girls all like her songs. Honestly, I think they're pretty good too. He smiled as he spoke. I looked at the tape, frowning slightly. The one who liked Teresa Teng was Amanda Lynn. My favorite singer had always been Lee Gai. But he didn't know that. He never did. Everything he thought was good for me was based on what he assumed women liked. If Amanda liked it, he figured I'd love it too. Come on, let's go eat, he said, grabbing my hand. We went to the state-run restaurant. He ordered longevity noodles and a few hometown dishes. From now on, every year on your birthday, we'll eat out, he said. I quietly ate my noodles, saying nothing. He said the same thing in my past life. But after that, not once did he ever spend my birthday with me. After dinner, we walked to the movie theater. The show was about to start in 10 minutes. Ethan looked around at the young couples lining up, many holding popcorn and cotton candy. Want some? He asked. I shook my head, but he still went to buy some anyway. Just as he returned, holding a fresh bag of cotton candy, Amanda appeared. She looked frantic and rushed toward Ethan, grabbing his hand. Ethan, Kiki has a high fever. He's burning up. Can you take us to the military hospital? Her voice was laced with panic and tears. Ethan's brow immediately furrowed, his face full of worry. Afraid I might stop him, Amanda turned to me and cried even harder. I'm just a pitiful woman, widowed so young. If anything happens to my son, if something happens to Kiki, I wouldn't be able to go on. Tears streamed down her face. Ethan glanced at me, then at the movie tickets in my hand, which suddenly felt as heavy as lead. Go, I said gently. Kiki's health comes first. I smiled, my voice cool and detached, as if none of it had anything to do with me. Rachel, take the tickets, he said. Go inside first when it's time. Leave one at the front desk. I'll take them to the hospital and come back right away. He was desperate to reassure me. I took the tickets and nodded silently. Then Ethan turned and left with Amanda and Kiki. But I knew, once he left, Amanda wouldn't let him come back so easily. As I watched his silhouette disappear down the street, I whispered under my breath, "Goodbye, Ethan Grant." I returned home, brought out the luggage I had already packed in advance, and headed to a small hotel near the train station. That night, I slept soundly. At 5 a.m., I got up, washed up, and had breakfast. Then I took my luggage and went to the train station. After passing through the ticket gate, I boarded the train heading for Beijing. As the train pulled away, the whistle howled in the air, again and again, almost as if it were reminding me. Rachel Chen, Your new life is about to begin. When I arrived at Peking First Medical University, everything went smoothly. I enrolled and began my new life. I chose to major in pharmaceutical research and threw myself into studying and lab work. Before I knew it, half a year had passed. I thought I would never see Ethan Grant again. But then, he suddenly showed up outside my dorm building. He looked terrible, completely worn down, none of his usual confidence or pride. His head and arm were wrapped in bandages. He was clearly still recovering from his injuries. What happened to him? Rachel. He called out emotionally the moment he saw me. He stumbled toward me, his steps unsteady. Why did you leave without saying anything? His tone carried a trace of hurt, like a child who had been abandoned. I've been looking for you for so long. He lowered his head. His voice trembled slightly. I asked your teacher, and finally found out you got into Peking First. So, I replied coldly. Why didn't you tell me? I would have celebrated with you. I gave a small laugh. He didn't understand what I was laughing at and continued. I was planning to come to Beijing to find you, but the military suddenly gave me an emergency assignment. I had no choice. I got injured during the mission and was stuck in bed for months. As soon as I could walk again, the first thing I did was come find you. His eyes were red as he spoke. I looked at him, at the man in front of me, and felt nothing at all. You should go, I said calmly. There's nothing between us anymore. What do you mean, nothing? He panicked. We're married. You're my wife. I gave a cold smile. Do we have a marriage certificate? He froze. I lost the original application, he stammered. But I'll submit a new one to the unit, and then we'll register officially. I'm not going with you, I cut him off. And I'm not marrying you. Go back to your life with Amanda Lynn and her son. The moment I said her name, his expression shifted. Rachel, why do you keep misunderstanding my relationship with Amanda? He blurted. I only feel responsible for them, that's all. He scrambled to explain. I've always wanted to marry you. This has nothing to do with Amanda. I stopped him again. All I want is to study hard and contribute to our country's medical field, not to become someone's wife. He stood there stunned. You have such lofty ambitions? He looked completely shaken. I thought you just wanted to be a housewife, someone who would revolve around me. I seized the moment while he was off balance and added, if you don't want to go back and get married, then I'll come here and marry you. I'll apply for a transfer to Beijing. That's enough, Ethan Grant. I cut him off firmly. I don't want to marry you. It has nothing to do with Amanda Lynn or anyone else. I just don't love you anymore, and I don't want you in my life. He stood frozen for a long moment before his lips finally moved. That's impossible. Rachel, I don't believe you. You're lying. I'm not lying, I said. Believe it or not, that's your problem. I don't have the energy to argue with you. I turned and headed back into my dorm. Behind me, Ethan still wouldn't give up. He shouted after me, Rachel, wait for me. I swear I'll transfer to Beijing. But the Ethan Grant who had made such bold promises to come to Beijing never showed up again, which was fine. Without his interference, I was able to focus even better on my studies. Still, later on, I happened to hear some things about him from another student from my hometown. Apparently, Ethan had performed exceptionally well on that assignment. He'd been honored and promoted. He'd even submitted a request for a transfer to Beijing, and it was approved by his unit. But when Amanda Lynn found out, she hugged her son and cried, begging him not to leave. For the first time ever, Ethan Grant said no. Ethan formally corrected Kiki's way of addressing him. From that moment on, the child was only allowed to call him Uncle Ethan. He promised Amanda Lynn that he would contribute a portion of his monthly salary to help raise Kiki, but that would be the extent of his involvement. Amanda agreed. Just before Ethan was scheduled to transfer to Beijing, Amanda invited him over for a farewell dinner. She made chive dumplings and drugged them. They ended up sleeping together. Afterward, Amanda used that incident to blackmail Ethan into marrying her, threatening to jump into the river with her son if he refused. The scandal spread quickly. When the military found out, they issued a stern warning and revoked Ethan's transfer to Beijing. Not only that, he was demoted 2 ranks. Only then did Ethan finally see Amanda's true colors. In the end, he had no choice but to marry her. When I heard all of this, I was silent for a long while. In my previous life, He had poured all my love and devotion into Amanda and her son, and now, in this life, he had still fallen into her trap and married her anyway. Maybe this was simply their fate. I felt no anger, no sadness, just indifference. It was nothing more than some idle gossip to pass the time over tea. Compared to Ethan's mess, I was far more interested in my lab data. I closed my research logbook and walked over to the window in the lab. Beijing's winter was still dry and bitterly cold, but my heart was full of hope and passion. I would continue my research, to explore the mysteries of life, to solve the hardest problems in medicine. This was the life I had always wanted. The year I graduated with my master's degree, my advisor asked if I wanted to join a national pharmaceutical project in a remote region. The mission was to develop medicines that could cure serious illnesses and prolong human life. It was a massive initiative, one that would benefit all of humanity. Being invited was an honor. I accepted without hesitation. Once I stepped into the research facility, my world revolved solely around science. Together with my team, we worked tirelessly, supported one another, and never lost focus. Over the next 30 years, we published numerous authoritative medical papers and developed hundreds of treatments that improved human health. We were praised by the nation, admired by the world. 30 years passed. The world changed. China had grown stronger and more prosperous, completely transformed. One day, officials from my hometown invited me to return, to visit and give a speech. When I saw the changes, I was overwhelmed. The muddy mountain roads had been replaced with smooth asphalt. The old brick houses were now modern homes. Every family had a car parked in front of their gate. My heart swelled with emotion. It was the effort and selfless contributions of countless people that had lifted this country out of poverty and into a life of abundance. After the visit, I planned to return to the institute and continue my work. But just before I left, the village chief pulled me aside. "There's someone who insists on seeing you," he said, rubbing his hands awkwardly. "He says he knows you, says he must see you, just once." I nodded. "All right, let's meet." That man came walking slowly, leaning on a cane. His skin was dark and deeply wrinkled. His clothes were patched all over. When he looked at me, there was something complicated in his eyes, something painfully familiar, and yet I couldn't place him. He trembled as he came to a stop in front of me. His cloudy eyes shimmered with tears. "Rachel," he said hoarsely, "you did it. You made great contributions to our country." His voice was rough and low, but I knew immediately who he was. Ethan Grant, the once proud and ambitious young man, was now just a frail, worn-out old man. My heart was flooded with complex emotions. "Are you all right?" I asked. "What about Amanda and Kiki?" He smiled, but it was a bitter smile, like the last leaf trembling on a dying branch. "Amanda? She's gone," he said. "Gone? Where?" He shook his head, eyes hollow. "I don't know. She ran off with another man. She never came back." A dull ache struck my chest. "And Kiki?" His smile turned even more bitter. Murky tears streamed down Ethan's deeply lined cheeks. "Kiki is gone too," he said. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at him in disbelief. What do you mean?" He shut his eyes in agony and took a deep breath, as if trying to inhale all his sorrow. He got mixed up in the wrong crowd and was beaten to death. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That boy, once so full of life, so carefully nurtured by his mother, had ended up on such a tragic path. I murmured, "How could this happen?" My mind was a complete blur. Ethan slowly opened his eyes, filled with remorse and guilt. "It's my fault," he choked. "I didn't keep him in line." His voice broke as he spoke, pausing between words as he recounted the years that had passed. Even though he had married Amanda Lynn, their life had been a complete mess. Amanda would argue with him constantly, often over trivial things. Eventually, he just moved into the military barracks full-time, choosing to stay away and avoid the conflict. Then came another mission, one that left him seriously injured. His leg was crippled, and he could no longer serve. He was honorably discharged. Amanda took his retirement compensation and invested it recklessly. She lost it all. Kiki, in his rebellious phase, got involved with gangs and eventually was killed in a violent altercation. Amanda broke down in grief, blaming Ethan for being useless, for failing to avenge their son. She took the last of their savings and ran off with another man. No one's heard from her since. Listening to it all, I felt an ache in my chest. I looked at the man Ethan had become, broken, regretful, and found no anger within me, only a deep, aching sympathy. Things will get better, I said softly. Our country takes care of its people. He looked at me, his eyes conflicted and emotional. After a long pause, he said in a trembling voice, Rachel, thank you. I gave him a small smile and turned to leave, but then his voice stopped me again, shaky, emotional. Rachel, I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, in our previous life, you would have already lit up the world. I froze and stared at him, stunned. Ethan wiped at his clouded tears and slowly nodded. Yes, I was reborn too. His voice was hoarse and low, as if carried from a great distance. During that final mission, I was seriously injured. I was in a coma for a long time. He paused, seeming to search for the right words. While I was unconscious, I saw it all. Everything that happened in our past life. My heart skipped a beat, and a strange, indescribable feeling surged within me. I saw the joy on your face when you got your college acceptance letter, he continued, his voice tinged with guilt. And how selfish I was to make you give up your dream. He struggled to keep speaking. I also saw what Amanda and Kiki did to you after I died. Tears spilled down his face again, cutting paths through his aged skin. They tried to kick you out. He closed his eyes in pain, as if unable to bear the memory. My breathing grew ragged. I felt like I was back in that dark, helpless moment all over again. I couldn't hold it in, he said. I ran behind the school building and cried like a child. That was when I realized how terribly wrong I'd been. He opened his eyes again, filled with remorse and heartbreak. I always believed a woman should follow her husband no matter what, support him in everything, he said with a self-deprecating smile. But I never once cared about how you felt, never cared about what you wanted. I trusted Amanda and Kiki without question. And in the end, I raised two ungrateful wolves with my own hands. His voice was full of despair and helplessness. I listened in silence, my heart heavy and tangled with emotion. After I woke up, all I wanted was to find you, to tell you. He paused again, hesitating. To tell you that the only person I ever truly loved was you. My heart shuddered violently, but I quickly returned to calm. I really only ever felt responsibility toward Amanda and Kiki, Ethan added, his voice steady. But I didn't have the courage to come see you. He lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong. Do you hate me? He asked cautiously, looking up at me with nervous eyes full of unease. I looked at him, the boy who once brimmed with youthful pride, now an old man weathered by life. I shook my head. I stopped hating you a long time ago, and you don't need to drown yourself in regret anymore, I said calmly. We were simply two people who were never meant to be. I've lived a fulfilling, meaningful life, I said, my gaze fixed on the horizon, my tone firm. For the rest of my days, I'll continue to dedicate myself to give back to my country. He nodded, choking back tears, his eyes glistening. I got into the official car, watching my hometown fade into the distance, my heart filled with peace. My life was still moving forward. My research was still moving forward. And my country would only continue to